My leg was stuck in the stones. The cowboy who saved me changed my life forever. Emily had always loved the outdoors. Ever since she was a little girl, she felt a special connection to nature. The mountains, rivers, and open fields gave her a sense of freedom she could never find in the crowded streets of her town. On weekends, she would hike for hours, exploring trails that few people knew about. Sometimes she went alone, enjoying the quiet, feeling that nature spoke to her in its own gentle way. She knew the risks, but the thrill of adventure always outweighed her fear. One bright morning, Emily decided to explore a trail she had heard about from an old map in the town's library. It was said to lead to a hidden stream in the mountains, surrounded by tall trees and large boulders. She packed her backpack with water, snacks, and a small first aid kit, feeling confident in her experience. The sun was warm on her skin, and the breeze carried the smell of pine and fresh earth. Birds sang overhead as she made her way along the rocky path. Everything seemed perfect. As she climbed higher, the terrain became more rugged. The path was narrow and the rocks were uneven and slippery. She had to step carefully, balancing herself on each stone. Her excitement grew with every step. She imagined the clear water of the stream and the quiet peace it would bring. She thought about sitting by the edge, letting her feet dangle in the cool water while the sun warmed her face. That day, she felt truly alive. After walking for nearly an hour, she reached the edge of a small cliff with a shallow stream below. The water sparkled in the sunlight, reflecting the surrounding green trees. Emily carefully made her way down, placing each foot cautiously on the stones. Some were loose, some covered with moss, making them slippery. She reminded herself to go slowly, but in her excitement she sometimes moved faster than she should have. Then it happened. One foot slipped, and she lost her balance. Emily fell forward, trying to grab a large rock to stop herself, but her leg slid into a narrow gap between two stones. Pain shot through her ankle and calf immediately. She tried to pull it out, twisting and turning, but the more she struggled, the more stuck it became. Fear began to rise in her chest. She had never been in a situation like this before. Her heart pounded, and a wave of panic washed over her. She was alone, far from the main trail, with no one nearby to help. She took a deep breath and tried to calm herself. "Think, Emily, think," she whispered. She assessed the situation, looking at the gap and the sharp stones pressing against her leg. Moving too much could make the injury worse. She remembered her first aid lessons and decided to stay still for a moment, hoping her leg wouldn't swell too much. She reached for her water bottle and took a small sip, trying to steady herself. Her mind raced with thoughts. What if no one came? What if she had to spend the night there? She shivered at the thought of being alone in the cold mountain air. Hours seemed to pass slowly. The sun moved across the sky, and Emily tried to make her position more comfortable. She used her hands to adjust her legs slightly, but it remained wedged tightly. Each movement caused a sharp sting, reminding her of how fragile the human body could be. She called out for help, her voice echoing against the rocks. "Hello! Is anyone there?" She shouted, hoping someone would hear her, but only the sound of the wind and the trickle of water answered back. She felt a deep loneliness, a sense of being completely alone in the vast wilderness. Despite the fear and pain, Emily refused to give up. She reminded herself that she was strong and capable. She had faced challenges before, though nothing like this. She focused on small things she could control, like breathing slowly and trying to keep her mind calm. She looked at the surrounding trees, listening to the birds, and even smiled at a butterfly that landed nearby. These little moments gave her a tiny spark of hope. She promised herself that she would survive, no matter how long it took. Time passed, and Emily's muscles grew tired from holding herself in place. Her leg throbbed, and she felt every ache in her body. Hunger and thirst crept in, but she tried to ignore them, focusing only on staying safe. The sun began to dip behind the mountains, and shadows stretched across the rocky terrain. She knew nightfall would bring new challenges. The temperature would drop, and the darkness would make everything more dangerous. She wrapped her jacket around herself as best as she could, trying to keep warm. Just as she began to feel despair creeping in, she thought about her family and friends. She remembered her mother's voice telling her to be careful, her father's stories of overcoming difficulties, and her younger brother's laughter. These memories strengthened her resolve. She wasn't just thinking about herself anymore. She wanted to survive for them too. The thought gave her courage. She whispered to herself, "I can do this. I have to do this." Emily continued to call out, her voice growing hoarse, but she refused to give up. She looked at the sky, hoping someone might be nearby, walking along the trails or riding a horse. She scanned the mountains, searching for any sign of life. Her eyes began to sting from tears, but she kept going. She couldn't sit there and wait hopelessly. She had to have hope, even if it was just a small flicker in her heart. Finally, as the sun began to set and the sky turned a soft orange, she heard a distant sound, a rhythmic thud, like hooves on dirt. Her heart leapt with hope. She called out again, louder this time, waving her arms. The sound grew closer, and soon she saw a figure on horseback coming toward her. Relief and gratitude flooded through her. She didn't know who it was, but just seeing another human being filled her with a sense of safety she hadn't felt all day. She wanted to cry, laugh, and thank them all at once. The figure, a tall cowboy with a wide-brimmed hat, rode up carefully. He stopped a few feet away, assessing the situation with calm eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice steady and kind. Emily explained what had happened, her words trembling as she spoke. The cowboy dismounted, tied his horse nearby, and approached her slowly, making sure not to worsen her injury. He examined her leg, checking how it was stuck and how much it hurt. His confidence and skill were evident, and Emily immediately felt a sense of trust. For the first time since the accident, Emily felt a wave of hope wash over her. She realized that even in moments of fear and pain, help could arrive when least expected. The day had been long, frightening, and exhausting, but it was far from over. With this cowboy by her side, she had a chance not only to escape her dangerous situation, but also to begin a new chapter, one that would change her life forever. The cowboy knelt beside Emily, examining her leg carefully. His hands were steady, and his voice was calm, which helped her heart slow down after the long hours of fear and pain. "Don't worry," he said gently.
"We'll get you out of here." Emily tried to smile, even though her face was wet with tears. She felt a strange mixture of relief and gratitude.
After hours of helplessness, she was no longer alone. There was someone who knew exactly what to do. He asked her to stay very still while he inspected the stones around her leg. Carefully, he tested the rocks to see which ones were loose and which were firmly in place. He explained each step in a quiet, steady voice, telling her what he was going to do. "I need to move this one first," he said, pointing to a large stone pressing against her ankle. "It might hurt a little, but I'll be quick." Emily nodded, trusting him completely. She had never met him before, yet she felt she could rely on him with her life. Slowly, he worked to loosen the stones around her leg. Emily bit her lip as a sharp sting shot through her ankle, but she reminded herself to stay calm. The cowboy spoke to her the entire time, asking questions about how she felt, and encouraging her to breathe steadily. "Almost there," he said. "Just a little more." His hands were strong but gentle, and he moved with care and precision. Minutes felt like hours, but finally, with a small, careful push, her leg slipped free from the tight gap. Emily couldn't believe it. She pulled her leg out slowly and rested it on a nearby rock, feeling a mixture of pain and relief. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she thanked him over and over. I don't know how to thank you," she said, her voice shaking. The cowboy smiled, brushing off her words. "Just be careful next time," he said. "That's thanks enough." There was something in his tone, humble, sincere, and unassuming, that made her admiration for him grow instantly. She had expected a stranger to be polite, but not to care so deeply about her safety. He helped her to stand slowly, supporting her weight as she tested her injured leg. It hurt, but the pain was bearable now. The cowboy suggested she sit for a moment while he adjusted her jacket to keep her warm. Emily noticed that he had tied his horse nearby, ensuring it was safe while he tended to her. Everything he did showed experience, patience, and respect for life, both hers and his surroundings. She felt a mixture of wonder and gratitude, realizing that not everyone in the world could act with such calmness under pressure. Once she felt steady enough, the cowboy offered to help her walk to a safer place. He moved slowly, guiding her around the sharp stones and uneven terrain. Emily was careful, but she also noticed how effortlessly he navigated the path, as though he had known it all his life. The sun was dipping behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the rocks, and the air was beginning to feel cooler. She shivered slightly, and he draped his jacket over her shoulders. "Better?" he asked. Emily nodded, feeling the warmth and the reassurance of his presence. As they walked, they exchanged small talk to keep her mind off the pain and fear she had felt earlier. Emily learned that his name was Jake, and he had been living on this ranch nearby for years. He knew the mountains and streams like the back of his hand, which explained how he had been able to find her so quickly. Emily shared a little about herself, too, telling him about her love for hiking and exploring. There was an easy rhythm to their conversation, as if they had known each other far longer than a few minutes. It was comforting after the long hours of loneliness. When they reached a flatter area near the base of the mountains, Jake suggested she sit while he checked her leg again. He carefully removed her shoes to inspect for cuts, bruises, or swelling. Emily flinched when he touched a tender spot, but he moved slowly and reassured her each time. "You're strong," he said quietly. "You stayed calm through this, and that matters." Emily felt her chest warm at his words. It was the first time all day she felt seen, not just as someone in trouble, but as a person with courage and determination. He then suggested taking her back to his ranch so she could rest properly. Emily hesitated for a moment, not wanting to impose, but he insisted. "I can't leave you out here tonight," he said firmly. "It's getting dark and the mountain can be dangerous after sundown." She realized he was right. The thought of spending the night alone, injured and scared, made her grateful for his offer. She agreed, and they slowly made their way toward the trail that led to his home. The walk was quiet at first, filled with the soft sounds of the mountains at dusk. Emily's leg hurt with each step, but she kept her focus on the safety of the path and on the calm presence of Jake beside her. He occasionally offered words of encouragement, telling her when she could take a break or when to step carefully. Despite her exhaustion, Emily felt a strange sense of peace. She had survived a frightening ordeal and now had someone to guide her. It was a feeling she had rarely experienced, complete trust in another person. As they approached the ranch, Emily's eyes widened at the sight of the simple, welcoming home nestled at the edge of the mountains. Smoke rose gently from a chimney, and the soft sound of animals in the barn added to the warmth of the scene. Jake led her inside and helped her to sit on a sturdy chair near the fireplace. He fetched a blanket and wrapped it around her shoulders, then poured her a cup of warm tea. Emily sipped it slowly, savoring the comfort of warmth and safety. For the first time since the accident, she felt completely relaxed. Over the next few minutes, Jake continued to check her leg, cleaning small cuts and wrapping them with clean cloth. Emily noticed the patience and care he took in every movement. He did not rush, he did not judge, and he did not make her feel weak. Instead, he treated her with dignity and respect, which made her heart swell with gratitude. She realized that in this world, there were people like him, people who helped without expecting anything in return, people who made a difference through simple acts of kindness. As Emily rested, they began talking more freely. Jake shared stories of his life on the ranch, the long days working with animals, the challenges of living in a remote area, and the quiet beauty of nature he had learned to appreciate. Emily shared her own adventures, the joy of discovering hidden streams, and the lessons she had learned from her own experiences. With each story, a connection formed between them. They laughed softly, shared moments of wonder, and even moments of reflection. The bond that began in fear and pain was now growing into something meaningful and genuine. By the time evening settled in completely, Emily felt a deep sense of relief. She had survived the accident, and she had met someone remarkable. Jake had not only saved her physically, but had also offered comfort, warmth, and kindness that reached deep into her heart. She realized that sometimes help could come in the most unexpected ways, and that a single act of bravery and care could change someone's life forever. Emily knew she would never forget this day. Not the fear, not the pain, but most of all, not the courage and humanity of the cowboy who had rescued her. As she drifted into a light sleep in the warmth of the ranch, Emily reflected on the events of the day. She felt a mixture of exhaustion, relief, and hope. The mountains that had once seemed so intimidating now felt like a place of possibility. And the cowboy, Jake, had become more than just a rescuer. He had become a symbol of trust, safety, and the kindness that could be found in the world. The accident had changed her life, but in the most unexpected way, it had also introduced her to someone who would leave a lasting mark on her heart. Emily spent the next few days at Jake's ranch, slowly recovering from her accident. Her leg was still sore and tender, but with Jake's careful attention, she could move around a little more each day. The first morning after the accident, she woke to the soft sunlight streaming through the window and the gentle sounds of the ranch waking up. Chickens clucked in the yard, and the faint sound of horses shifting in the barn filled the air. She felt a strange mix of comfort and awe. Being at the ranch was nothing like the crowded town she was used to. Here, life moved slowly, naturally, and peacefully. Jake was already up, tending to chores before the heat of the day set in. He noticed Emily stirring and came to check on her. "Morning," he said with a warm smile. "How's the leg today?" Emily shifted slightly and wiggled her toes, feeling the stiffness ease a little. "Better," she said. "Thanks to you." Jake nodded, his expression calm. "Good. Take it slow. We'll make sure it heals properly." Even in his simple words, there was care, patience, and reassurance. Emily felt safe in his presence, like nothing could hurt her while he was around. Breakfast was a quiet, pleasant moment. Jake had prepared eggs, toast, and fresh fruit from the small garden near the ranch. Emily sipped her tea, enjoying the warmth and comfort, feeling a sense of normalcy she hadn't felt in hours. They talked lightly about everyday things, the weather, the animals on the ranch, and small stories from their lives. Emily was surprised at how easy it was to talk to him, how natural the conversation flowed. She realized she had spent so long alone in the mountains that she had almost forgotten the simple joy of sharing stories with someone else. After breakfast, Jake helped Emily move to a chair on the porch, where the sun was warm but not harsh. The breeze carried the fresh smell of grass and earth, and Emily felt a sense of calm wash over her. Jake suggested she elevate her leg to reduce the swelling. While he worked to make her comfortable, Emily watched him carefully. There was a quiet strength about him, a sense of patience and purpose. Every action he took was deliberate, careful, and kind. She felt a deep gratitude for his help and a growing admiration for the person he was. As the day passed, Emily began to explore small areas of the ranch while Jake kept a watchful eye. She could sit on the porch, dip her fingers into the small stream that ran beside the property, and even help with light tasks that didn't strain her leg. She found joy in the small moments, the way sunlight danced across the water, the gentle sound of the wind rustling through the trees, and the soft nicker of the horses as they moved in the barn. The accident that had caused so much fear now seemed like a distant memory, replaced by the comforting rhythm of life at the ranch. Emily and Jake spent hours talking about their pasts, their dreams, and their experiences. Emily shared stories of her childhood adventures and her love for exploring nature. Jake spoke about his life on the ranch, the challenges and rewards of caring for animals, and the quiet beauty of living close to the mountains. Their conversations were filled with laughter, curiosity, and mutual respect. Emily felt a connection growing between them, not just because he had saved her life, but because of the way he listened, understood, and treated her with genuine care. One afternoon, Jake suggested they go for a short walk around the ranch to stretch her leg gently. Emily hesitated, worried she might hurt herself again, but Jake reassured her. "We'll go slow," he said. "I'll be right here the whole time." With his steady guidance, Emily walked along the soft path near the garden, feeling the cool grass beneath her feet and the warm sun on her skin. Each step reminded her of how far she had come, from being trapped in pain and fear to now moving freely with confidence and trust. She felt a sense of pride and relief. Over the following days, Emily began to notice the little things that made Jake special. He had a way of paying attention to what mattered, noticing when she was uncomfortable or tired, and always finding a gentle solution. He worked hard on the ranch, but always found time to check on her, offer a comforting word, or share a quiet moment. Emily admired his dedication, his patience, and the simple, sincere kindness he showed to everyone and everything around him. She realized that true strength wasn't just about physical ability. It was about caring, understanding, and being present for others. One evening, as the sun dipped below the mountains, Emily and Jake sat on the porch, watching the sky turn shades of pink and orange. The world felt peaceful, almost magical, and Emily felt a deep sense of gratitude. "I never expected this," she said softly. "Not the accident, of course, but everything that came after. Meeting you, being here, it's been more than I could have imagined." Jake looked at her, a quiet smile on his face. "Life has a way of teaching us lessons in the strangest ways," he said. "Sometimes even a frightening day can lead to something good." Emily nodded, feeling the truth in his words. She realized that even the hardest moments could bring unexpected blessings. As Emily's leg healed, she began helping Jake with light tasks around the ranch. She fed the chickens, collected eggs, and even helped water the small garden. Jake showed her how to handle the animals gently, how to move carefully and confidently, and how to appreciate the small joys in daily work. Emily loved learning from him, not just about the ranch, but about patience, care, and the importance of being present. Each day, she felt stronger, both physically and emotionally. and she knew that Jake's guidance and support had made all the difference. During one quiet evening, Emily found herself sitting near the stream, watching the water flow over the stones. Jake joined her, sitting a little distance away. They didn't need to speak. The silence was comfortable. Emily realized how much she had come to rely on his presence, not just for safety, but for companionship and understanding. She felt a growing admiration for him, not just as a rescuer, but as a person who had touched her life deeply. The bond between them was becoming undeniable, a mix of trust, respect, and the beginnings of something more. Emily began to notice changes within herself as well. She felt more confident, more patient, and more appreciative of life's small moments. The accident had been frightening, but it had also taught her resilience. She realized that she could face challenges and come through them, especially with someone by her side who cared. Her gratitude for Jake went beyond simple thanks. She felt inspired by his actions, motivated to approach her own life with more courage, kindness, and awareness of the people around her. By the end of the week, Emily was moving comfortably on her own, though she still relied on Jake's guidance for longer walks. They shared meals, laughter, and stories, each day deepening their connection. Emily knew that the accident had been a turning point, not just because it led her to safety, but because it introduced her to a person who would leave a lasting impact on her life. She felt that, in some quiet way, Jake had helped her not only heal her leg, but also discover a part of herself she hadn't fully known. Her strength, resilience, and capacity for trust and connection. One night, as the stars sparkled in the clear mountain sky, Emily lay in bed thinking about everything that had happened. She realized that her life had changed in ways she could not have predicted. She had faced fear, endured pain, and experienced gratitude in its purest form. Most importantly, she had met Jake, a man whose courage, kindness, and quiet wisdom had taught her more than words ever could. She knew that this experience would stay with her forever, shaping her choices, her perspective, and her understanding of what it meant to be cared for and to trust someone completely. Emily had returned home from the mountains several weeks ago, but the experience at Jake's ranch continued to influence her every day. The accident that had trapped her leg in the stones now felt like a distant memory, yet its impact was undeniable. She often thought about the fear she had felt, the helplessness that had made hours stretch like days, and the sudden relief when Jake had appeared. It had been terrifying, but it had also changed her in ways she could not have predicted. She realized that sometimes the most difficult moments in life could lead to the deepest personal growth. One morning, as she walked through the streets of her small town, Emily noticed things she had never seen before. She paid attention to the way the sunlight touched the rooftops, the way children laughed and played in the park, and the small acts of kindness among strangers. A man helping an elderly woman carry her groceries, a child returning a lost dog to its owner. These simple acts reminded her of Jake's calm, caring nature. She understood that courage and kindness didn't always show in grand gestures. Often, it was in the small, quiet ways people helped each other every day. Emily began thinking more about herself and how she approached challenges. Before the accident, she often let fear stop her from taking risks. She worried about failure or embarrassment, and sometimes avoided new experiences because of it. But after being trapped in the stones, she realized that fear could be faced and overcome, especially when she relied on her inner strength and trusted the help of others. She started seeking small challenges in her daily life, trying new activities, meeting new people, and stepping out of her comfort zone. Each success, no matter how small, made her feel braver and more confident. The bond with Jake remained a quiet but powerful influence on her life. They wrote letters and spoke over the phone, sharing updates about their days. the little things that mattered to them, and reflections on life. Emily found herself admiring not just his bravery, but his patience, humility, and perspective. Jake never boasted about what he had done. He simply acted when it mattered. Emily wanted to emulate that in her own life, helping others when possible, staying calm in difficult situations, and finding joy in everyday moments. One afternoon, Emily volunteered at a local community center, helping to organize activities for children. As she guided them through games and simple tasks, she thought about how much she had grown since her accident. She encouraged children to try new things, reminding them that it was okay to be afraid, but important to keep moving forward. She realized that her experience had given her a unique understanding of courage and resilience. She could empathize with others facing fear or uncertainty, and she wanted to share the lessons she had learned in a meaningful way. Emily also reflected on the importance of trust. When she had been trapped, she had to trust Jake completely, even though she barely knew him. She realized that trust was not weakness. It was the foundation of connection, friendship, and support. She carried this lesson into her personal relationships, becoming more open, patient, and understanding. She listened more attentively, helped without expectation, and appreciated the people who supported her as much as she supported others. Emily felt a sense of balance and harmony in her life that she had never experienced before. Nature, too, took on a new meaning for Emily. Hiking, which had once been just a hobby, became a way to reflect, recharge, and connect with the lessons she had learned. Each time she walked along a trail, she remembered the stones that had trapped her leg, the fear she had felt, and the calm guidance Jake had provided. She appreciated the beauty and danger of nature in equal measure, understanding that it demanded respect and care. This mindfulness carried into her daily life, helping her approach situations with thoughtfulness, caution, and appreciation. As Emily grew stronger, she began to consider how she could help others in meaningful ways. She started a small project to guide young people on safe hiking practices, teaching them about the importance of preparation, attention, and caution in the outdoors. She shared her story of being trapped, not to scare anyone, but to show that accidents could happen to anyone, and that courage, patience, and seeking help were powerful tools. Her story resonated with many, and she realized that her experience, once a source of fear, was now a source of inspiration. Emily's emotional growth continued as she thought more deeply about gratitude. She kept a small journal where she wrote down things she was thankful for each day: the support of her family, the lessons learned from her accident, the kindness of strangers, and the steadfast friendship of Jake. Writing helped her reflect on the positive in life, even in the face of challenges. She understood that true gratitude was not just about saying thank you, but about allowing those feelings to shape actions and decisions. Emily wanted to live in a way that honored the help and care she had received. Her connection with Jake deepened through shared reflection. Though they were apart, their conversations often turned to life lessons, the value of kindness, and how small choices could make a difference. Emily felt inspired to carry forward the quiet courage he had shown, the ability to act when needed, to help without expectation, and to remain calm in the face of challenges. These qualities became a guiding force in her life, shaping how she approached work, friendships, and personal goals. Jake had given her more than safety. He had shown her a model of living with integrity and compassion. Emily also noticed changes in how she faced her own fears. She no longer avoided challenges or allowed self-doubt to dictate her actions. She took calculated risks, pushed herself to try new things, and embraced uncertainty with a sense of curiosity rather than panic. Hiking alone still held a thrill, but she now approached it with respect, preparation, and mindfulness. She felt empowered by the knowledge that she could handle difficulties, seek help when needed, and emerge stronger from adversity. The accident that once seemed like a frightening setback had transformed into a source of personal growth. Through it all, Emily carried a quiet sense of hope. She understood that life could be unpredictable, that challenges were inevitable, and that human connection was a gift. She thought often of Jake, not with dependency, but with admiration and gratitude. His presence in her life had sparked a transformation, teaching her about courage, resilience, patience, and trust. Emily now approached life with a sense of purpose, ready to face difficulties, embrace opportunities, and extend kindness to others, just as she had received it. By the end of this period, Emily realized she had been changed in subtle but profound ways. She had learned to value patience over haste, calm over panic, and kindness over indifference. She had discovered an inner strength she had not fully known, and she had learned the importance of trusting others when life demanded it. Most importantly, she had come to understand that every challenge, no matter how frightening, could carry lessons that shaped the course of a person's life. Emily's experience with Jake, the mountains, and the accident had opened her heart and mind in ways she would carry forever. Months had passed since Emily's accident, but she could still feel its lessons in every part of her life. The fear and pain of that day had faded, replaced by strength, gratitude, and a deep appreciation for the people who had helped her along the way. She often thought of Jake, the cowboy who had appeared when she needed help most, and the moments at his ranch that had changed her perspective forever. What began as an accident had grown into an experience that reshaped her understanding of courage, kindness, and human connection. Emily had returned fully to her daily life, but she noticed that everything felt different now. Simple tasks she once took for granted, walking through the market, climbing stairs, or even speaking up in a meeting, felt infused with new confidence. She approached challenges with a calm determination, remembering how she had faced fear in the mountains and how trust and patience had helped her survive. Each day she carried a quiet strength that she had never possessed before, and it showed in the way she interacted with others. People began to notice her calm and positive energy. She continued volunteering at the community center, sharing her experiences with children and young adults. She told them her story, not to frighten them, but to teach them that even in the hardest moments, hope and courage could prevail. Emily taught them the value of careful planning, paying attention to surroundings, and asking for help when necessary. More importantly, she shared the lesson of trust and kindness, explaining that one act of help could change someone's life forever. Her story inspired many, and she felt proud knowing that her experience could guide and encourage others. Emily also maintained her connection with Jake. Though they were miles apart, they wrote letters, exchanged messages, and occasionally visited each other. Their bond had deepened beyond gratitude. It had become a friendship rooted in respect, shared values, and a quiet understanding of life. She admired his dedication to the land, the animals, and the simple ways he helped those around him. Jake, in turn, admired Emily's courage, resilience, and willingness to grow from her experiences. They often reflected on life, discussing challenges, dreams, and the small lessons they had learned from one another. Her hikes and outdoor adventures had taken on new meaning as well. Emily no longer hiked just for fun or excitement. She now hiked to connect with nature, reflect on life, and practice mindfulness. She paid attention to the smallest details, the sound of the water in streams, the texture of stones underfoot, the scent of wildflowers in the breeze. Each hike reminded her of the accident, not as a moment of fear, but as a turning point that had taught her the value of caution, observation, and respect for the world around her. Nature became both a teacher and a source of healing. Emily also noticed changes within herself that extended beyond courage and mindfulness. She had learned patience, both with herself and with others. She no longer rushed through tasks or became frustrated easily. Challenges that once would have overwhelmed her now seemed manageable. She approached problems methodically, thinking through solutions calmly rather than reacting impulsively. Her perspective had shifted from fear of failure to curiosity about possibilities. Every setback was now an opportunity to learn, and every success, no matter how small, was a moment of celebration. The lessons she had learned from Jake's calm, deliberate care influenced her relationships as well. Emily had become more compassionate and understanding toward family, friends, and even strangers. She listened more attentively, offered help without expectation, and valued the quiet acts of kindness that often went unnoticed. She understood that courage was not just physical bravery, but the willingness to act thoughtfully, with integrity and care in everyday life. Jake had modeled this for her, and she now carried it into her own actions and choices. One bright morning, Emily decided to visit the mountains where the accident had happened. She wanted to see the stream again, not with fear, but with appreciation for what it had taught her. As she walked along the trail, careful with each step, she reflected on the journey she had taken, from being trapped and scared to growing stronger and wiser. She thought about the hours of helplessness, the relief of being rescued, the comfort of Jake's presence, and the weeks of recovery that had shaped her character. The mountains, once a place of danger, had become a symbol of growth and transformation. When she reached the stream, Emily paused and looked at the stones where her leg had been trapped. She touched the water and felt a sense of gratitude wash over her. The experience had been terrifying, but it had also opened her eyes to the power of kindness, trust, and human connection. She realized that one person's willingness to help, without expecting anything in return, could ripple through someone's life forever. Jake's actions had not only saved her leg, they had inspired her heart, guided her growth, and changed her outlook on life entirely. Emily smiled as she thought about the future. She had learned that life would always bring challenges, but courage, preparation, and the willingness to trust others could carry her through. She felt ready for anything, knowing that even when things seemed difficult or uncertain, she had the tools to navigate them. She also felt inspired to continue helping others, to share her story, and to encourage kindness, patience, and courage wherever she could. The accident was no longer a source of fear. It was a foundation for strength. When Emily returned home from the mountains, she carried with her a renewed sense of purpose. She continued her volunteer work, her outdoor adventures, and her personal growth, but now with a deeper understanding of life's possibilities. She approached relationships, work, and challenges with calm determination, guided by the lessons of resilience, trust, and gratitude she had learned. And though she lived miles away from the ranch, Jake's presence in her life remained a quiet but steady source of inspiration and support. Emily knew that life would continue to bring surprises, both joyful and challenging. But she also knew that the experience of being trapped in the stones and being rescued by Jake had prepared her for whatever might come. She felt empowered, mindful, and compassionate, carrying the lessons of courage, patience, and kindness into every aspect of her life. The memory of that day would remain with her, not as a source of fear, but as a symbol of hope, transformation, and the enduring power of human connection. As she stood in her backyard one evening, watching the sun set in shades of gold and pink, Emily thought about everything she had learned. She had faced fear, relied on someone's help, and grown stronger and wiser from the experience. She had discovered courage she didn't know she had, patience she didn't know she could practice, and a sense of gratitude that guided her actions. And she had met Jake, a man whose calm strength and kindness had left an indelible mark on her life. She smiled, knowing that she was forever changed, ready to face the world with hope, compassion, and courage.